Welcome to Disrupt the Defaults podcast. I am your host, Rachel, and we have Ilana Weinstein back with us today. She is in tech by day, and by night, she's a poet. She told us all about her book writing process last week. And this time, we get to hear about the other part of her world, which is working in the career development space. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. Loving a part two.
Yes, thanks for joining again. And I was going to ask you, so I know when we first got started, we both had our teas. So I know you're also a tea drinker. So tell me more about what tea you're drinking.
Well, this one is, they sell it at the Korean grocery store here in New York City. It's a jelly format. It's a citron honey
Oh,
tea. So it's not in a
yeah.
tea bag. You like scoop it with a spoon. My mom and I went to the Korean grocery store and we were very obsessed with it. So now I keep a jar in my fridge. I don't know the brand. It is not in English.
Okay. Okay. It sounds delicious, though. I feel like that's perfect for this time of year when everyone's getting sick.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're real gross in New York City. So anything I can do is an immunity booster. I'm into it.
So if you could just add it to hot water.
Yep, and it melts. It's really cool. I'm going
Oh,
to send you a picture. I literally cannot tell you anything that the label says. It is all in Korean.
oh,
But
okay.
I'll send you a picture.
Please do. I'm like, man, I just have a boring old, like that basic tea you get at Target, the ginger tea, and I put honey in it. I try to have one a day. I feel like it just is good for your stomach and it just makes me feel calm to have my little afternoon tea.
I love to throw a frozen, like at Trader Joe's, they sell those frozen ginger cubes.
Yes, I
I
love
like to throw
those.
those into
Yep.
tea.
Yep. So when I run out, I think I have like two or three more of these. I'll go to those. I feel like it's more potent than the tea bag. The
Yeah,
ginger.
I like the taste of ginger. I always do a
Okay.
caveat. Everybody likes the taste of ginger. I
Yes.
love it. I'll drink that straight, but
It's a very strong flavor.
yes.
So when you're not drinking your tea, you work in career development, and I know that's how we originally connected, cross paths around doing similar work. As someone who has done really amazing things outside of work, you have all these great hobbies. Tell us what has it been like working in the career development space? What's your favorite part about it?
My gosh. I love career development because I feel like it's something that I get to live and breathe every single day. So when I started working, nobody ever sat down with me and talked to me about, hey, you have the autonomy over X, Y, and Z in your
Mm,
career.
mm-hmm.
The story that a lot of us get when we join, I'm going to say the regular, like, 9 to 5 or corporate world. I don't want to speak for people who work in other industries because I definitely don't know that myself. But the story that I got when I came into the workforce for the very first time was just like, you come here, you do your stuff, you move up when other people feel like it, and that's it. And
Yeah.
then you do that for the rest of your life. And I was like, that can't be the case. So I didn't get anybody who explained that to me. I had to figure it all out myself. So I love being the person who gets to show people all of the wonderful opportunity that they have in their career and in their life.
Yeah. And I know this is the reason why I got into HR. So started my career doing something totally different, got into it because I'm like, I want to help people build these great careers. And then realized, oh, wait, a lot of companies don't really invest in that. That's not, I got into HR to do that. And I was working with employee relations issues. And I'm like, I really don't want to investigate this case right now. Like it's important, but sometimes it was like, what am I doing with my life? I really want to be helping people and not just pushing like the same agendas that we've always had in corporate spaces. And so, like you're saying, it's so important to have people who do this and also to support people in knowing like you are in charge of your career. I remember a mentor saying, like, if you don't have a plan for your life and your career, someone else will just make you a part of theirs. So, as someone who, you said no one gave you these tools, but you're working in this space. So, how did you kind of figure that out and come to the place where you felt like not only could you do it for yourself, but you can also share this with other people?
Ooh. Well, I went straight into my very first role was a customer service role.
Mm,
Uh, like a, phone line
yeah.
kind of account management situation. And it was for a really big organization. And at the time, I didn't know anything about other departments. So just being there was really cool. That's how I met the learning and development team. And I was like, oh my God, there are people who teach other adults for a living. Like that's cool. What is
Yeah.
this? And I just sort of found my way into that. I left that role. It was a place I really had never planned on leaving.
Mm.
I just sort of was like, yep, this is it. We're good. And I
Oh,
ended up
wow.
leaving at a certain point. And that's when I got really passionate about career development because no one ever told me how to leave my first job. It was just sort of like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
And what can I ask for? And what can I do? And what skill sets do I have that then apply to other places? Because I'd only ever worked one place. So how was I supposed to know? So it was a lot of trial and error,
Hmm.
a couple of tears, a couple of mental
Lots of
breakdowns.
tears.
Like
Yeah.
if I could spare somebody else the mental breakdown of trying to figure out where their skills apply in another
Yeah.
role, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. So you said you didn't think you were going to leave the first job. So when you left it, were you looking for a certain experience as you were going through this kind of trial and error of no one told me, what do I do? How do I leave this? What were you looking for when you were like, okay, I'm ready to move on from this experience to a new one that I thought would be forever, but it's not. And here's why I'm leaving. Here's something that's big enough to get me away from it.
Yeah. So my first job was customer service. Then I moved over to the learning and development team at this organization.
Okay.
That organization had a learning and development team of 50 people,
Oh, that's
which is
big.
massive for anybody who's like, what's learning and development and why does that number matter? That is a huge learning and development team. Most organizations do not have learning and development teams that big. It's somewhat of an ancillary function. So I had a role, and basically there was no need for me to ever learn how to do anything else because there were other
Yeah.
people who could handle it. And I didn't want that. I
Mm.
wanted the consistent challenge. I am, a nerd in that, like, I just love to keep learning and keep pushing and see, can I go bigger? Can I learn how to do this? So when I left, I took a role where instead of being on a team of 50 people, I created the learning and development team, and I was a team of one. And it was an organization that had never had learning and development before. So
Yeah.
I basically had to prove that I knew what I was doing, or I had to learn how to do it real fast
Yeah.
and get that experience. And it was one of the best decisions I think I made for my career. I feel so much more prepared, and I understand so much more about not only the learning and development function as a whole, but a business function, like how an organization works, because as the only person, I had to learn everything about that organization in order to serve them correctly. I had not planned on leaving, but I ended up leaving was a good call.
Okay. Yeah, you made the right decision. Well, we talked about like people don't tell you any of this stuff. And that's part of your role is to like, you're like, I don't want people to feel this way. I want to create things that help them. So, what are examples of some of the things that you've created that you're really proud of to help people navigate this space where you don't really get much of a guide? There's no one there. Like, unless you have a really great mentor who's helping you along the way, you're probably just trying to figure it out on your own and Googling stuff. So, what are some great resources you may have created to help people with that?
I don't know if I could report to you proper resources. So I've
Okay.
got no one pagers, no trainings, but I really pride myself on being the person who, if you need to have a career conversation, come talk to me.
Yeah.
Um, I think that something that is a disservice to a lot of people that we don't do, especially people who are entering the workforce for the first time and or people who are trying to change careers, is that we're not honest with them.
That's
I
so
sit
true.
down and I do a lot of conversations where people are like, learning and development seems so cool. And it is. It is really cool. But I'm also going to be the person who's going to tell you there are much less glamorous pieces of learning and development. I think that that can be said for lots of different jobs, but
Hmm.
I think that we really sell people on our function, whatever it is, finance, HR, customer service, and we make it seem really fantastic. And there's no such thing as a perfect job. And
Yeah.
I love a good, honest career conversation. What's in reach? What's not in reach? What is it actually like? What do you actually want? What actually motivates you? Not enough people are honest about the fact that, like, they want to make more money, and that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I want to have a job I love. Sometimes you don't want to have a job you love.
I
Sometimes you have a job that pays the bills.
I will say with the having that was like, early 20s, I would have a job I love. It's the ultimate goal. And then I did at one point. I'm like, oh, this can actually be really draining too. I kind of like having some sort of emotional distance from work.
Yes.
just so I can save part of me for, other things in life, but also it becomes almost unhealthy at a certain point if you love it too much and it's like a distraction from everything else. It's not as good as it sounds.
Totally. And not a lot of people will have that conversation. And I
Yeah.
could have benefited from that conversation immensely at a certain
Mm.
point in my career. So I've become the person that if you want to have that conversation, come have that conversation with me.
So if someone's like, "Hey, I want to make a career change," or "I'm in the middle of my career and I'm just tired of what I've been doing. I'm stuck. I want to change." You're going to have a career conversation with them. What are like two or three major points, tips that you like to give people to help them navigate their career?
Definitely, what are you motivated by?
Mm,
That's a huge one.
that's a good
That,
one.
that could be anything. I'm motivated by making more money. I'm motivated by taking care of my family. I'm motivated by living in a place that makes me happy. I have external projects that are really super deeply important to me. That's number one, because that I can't do anything unless you are able to tell me, like, okay, what is it that's important to you? Um, what brings you joy? Yeah, at work. Do you like working with people? Would you prefer to never talk to a human being ever again? Do you want
That's
to
real.
design stuff? Right. Do you want to design stuff? Do you want to work out of a queue? And then we tie that back to what motivates you. And then I think your third thing is like, what do you want to do outside of work? Do you want to have a job where you
I love
have
that.
outside time? Do you have other projects you want to pursue? Do you not want to do anything outside of work? And outside of work, you just want to be like a regular, normal person, which is totally fine. That's
Yeah.
totally okay. But people have to be honest about that before thinking about a career move.
I love, love, love all three of those, especially, and I will actually link in the show notes. There's a really great tool I like called the 9 work motivators, just to help give you some like words to use to describe this to someone else if you're talking to your manager. So I will link that. And I love that you included the third one. What do you want your life to be like? This is so important, and it's something that we don't really talk about, we're not very intentional about at the beginning of our careers. And I wish someone had told me this at 22. Like what do you want your life to look like? How much time do you want to devote to work? What kind of impact do you want to have? But also this idea that we talked about in the last episode, how will you measure success? If success to you is having the biggest title and making the most money, you're going to create a very different career path from someone whose definition of success is being a really great friend. Those might be they might look the same, they might look very different, but like knowing what's pushing you and guiding you is going to allow you to make career decisions when it's hard or when you may have to like say no to things, say yes to things. That's going to be your guiding light.
Absolutely. And this is a conversation we have in career development a lot. So I work in the tech industry. A lot of people find that in the tech industry, the only way to move up is to become a people manager. It's like a
Yeah.
very pared down version
Mm-hmm.
of what you just said. And there are lots of people who don't want to be people managers, but don't see any other way forward. So this is why it becomes really important to be like, what does success look like? Maybe you don't want the highest title, and
Yeah.
that is totally okay. And I think that's something not a lot of people hear. So I'm happy to tell y'all it's okay if you don't have the
Yeah.
world's highest title. Are you happy? That's the most important
Yeah.
question. You have to become a people manager. You could just be a really awesome individual contributor if that is your goal. If you do want
Yeah.
to manage people, different conversation.
Yeah. And the thing is, if managing people is a hard role, I don't think wanting to do that just to move up a level, like that's not enough reason for me because it's such a hard role. I'm going to do that. It's because I want to develop people. I want to help them grow their careers. Like there has to be something else there, which is why, unfortunately, in a lot of organizations, we get in situations where people aren't having great manager experiences because when we promote people, we're not necessarily looking for those skills of a great manager. We're just like, oh, they do a great job. Let's promote them. But the flip side of that is that there's all this pressure to feel like you have to be a manager to keep moving in your career. And at some places, that's true.
It is. And then we don't get the story of like, it's okay for you to leave if that's
Yeah.
the place. Now, this is a really difficult conversation to have in like a time of like somewhat industry unrest. I know there's a
Hmm.
lot of layoffs and a lot of things like that. So the luxury of being able to leave, I want to recognize is like a privilege to a lot of people. And I also recognize that there are certain times where you cannot leave for various reasons. But in theory, the way it should work is that if there is no path forward for you to grow in the way that you want to grow, you should be able to leave.
Yeah. And I will say too, leaving doesn't have to be the next week. Maybe that path takes a year, takes two, depending on industry, financially. Like if you have to have something lined up, that's totally okay. But having a plan to leave isn't just the leaving part. It could also include what are the skills that I need to get from this role to prepare me for what I want next. I think that's something I missed out a lot on earlier in my career is focusing like, oh, I want this next job, but I wasn't like, how do I do everything in my power to make sure that I'm actually prepared to do the next job? So how do you prepare people for that?
I love this is an amazing question. I love when people are like, hey, this is what I want to do, and this is the role that I'm in, and I don't see a line between the two of them at
Hmm.
all. So I was just talking to someone at my current job who is on our member experience team, and she was like, I want to like own my own business. I don't want to do this. And I
Hmm.
was like, I see great lines between the two of these things. Like, here's what you can learn and draw from your member experience world that will prepare you to own your own business one day. You're working with customers. You're going to work with customers at your small business. So practice here. Have the customer service style that you want your business to have.
Oh,
That's
that's
an
great.
amazing learning opportunity. Um, you're going to have to manage budgets and things like that. We were able to talk through like
Hmm.
all of the nuance of her work. So it's another piece of career development is not just where do you want to go next? It's what do you get out of where you currently are, whether you're happy or not, to
Yes.
then take you to the next thing that will hopefully make you happier.
Yeah, that's a great example because no matter how much you like or dislike a job, you can learn something. You can get what you need. You can learn something from every situation. And I like the idea of planning your careers like now, later, next. So, what do I need to learn in this current role? What's the next thing I want to do? And then, like later on, like beyond next, what am I working towards? Because for this person, next may not be like maybe starting the businesses later, and there's another next in between now and later. And so I really like that approach to kind of looking at your career.
And it's under this umbrella of what am I motivated by? What brings me joy? So it's like
Yes,
all of these
exactly.
things together.
Yes, yes. I'm like, after this conversation, I feel like I need to like make a visual of this to help because I'm like, oh, it all flows together once you write it down. Um, this is great. I think it's scary at work to have these conversations sometimes because you feel like you can't change your mind. Someone may judge you, but I wish we did have these conversations more because they're so helpful with like getting unstuck and figuring out what you want to do.
Oh my gosh, change your mind. That's so
Yeah,
important. That's another thing.
right. Change your
I
mind.
want to make it okay for people to say that. Change your mind. Say that you want to be the CEO one day and then be like, just kidding. I think I
Yeah.
hate that. Yeah. That is totally okay. That's why we think about like what is success to you. Because every single kid is like, I want to be the CEO, I want to be the president, I want
Yeah.
to be, whatever. And that's you don't have to. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Because that's what we're taught, kind of like more is better, and you want to
Right.
get the highest title. But the thing is, there's not a lot of those to go around. And if we're being honest, most of us don't want those anyway. So it's like, that's okay.
So change
Um,
your mind as many times as you'd like. Go from wanting to be a firefighter to a baker to a whatever.
yes,
It's okay.
that is the takeaway from this conversation. Change your mind, change your mind, change it again. I think there's a book, I can't remember the name of it, but in my 20s, I saw this book about like having 10 different careers in your lifetime. And I remember thinking, I want to aspire to that. I want to try out 10 different things, which I don't even know if I counted where I'm at today, but I love that it's more accepted these days. Like people aren't staying at jobs 30 or 40 years as much as they used to. It's okay to change. It's okay to like try out a new career. Some companies even have programs where you can do that within the company. So I love that it's becoming a part of this work for people to explore.
My partner does this amazing thing at networking events.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of sort of like a line between like multiple careers and multiple
Hmm.
personalities, multiple like interests. There we go. That's the word I wanted.
Yeah.
Uh, he loves to ask people, who are you outside of work at networking?
Oh, that's a good
So
one.
that could be anything from like it's not what do you do? It's,
Oh,
what was your story? how did you end up here? What else are you passionate about besides what you do during the day? Maybe you love what you do during the day, but you also have this other interest.
Yeah.
That's something I started doing it as well because I think it's just the coolest question ever. And you learn a lot about people who do have sort of these multiple careers.
Yeah.
Oh, I am an engineer, but I also like brew kombucha in my basement. It's it could be anything.
Yeah. I also the question, what do you do? I'm like, we need a better question. So I love this. So what are a few other questions that you like to ask people beyond what do you do that can help you get to know someone on a deeper level?
Ooh. Well, who are you outside of work?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
steal my partners on that one. Um, what's something that brings you joy? What's
That's a
something
good one.
amazing that's like, what's something really awesome that's happened to you in the last week?
Mm,
These are, I feel like I need more questions. Um,
I like the last week one too. It's what's going on. It gives them the opportunity to share what's going on in their life today
yeah.
if they want to.
What's the dream job? But like the dream job with no parameters. We stopped
Uh,
asking adults what's the dream job. We ask
yeah,
kids what's the dream job, and they're like, I want to be a fashion designer. And some of them turn out to be
yeah.
fashion designers, most of them don't. Ask an adult what their dream job was or what their dream job was as a kid.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so I actually, for my birthday last year, invited friends over, and almost everyone knew each other except for like one or two people. So I'm like, how do I bring everyone together in a way where someone doesn't feel left out? So I had everyone create a fake name and a fake career. And I said, I got this idea from a coworker who went to a camp where you couldn't use your phone and you had to have a fake name. And I was like, I'm using that. So we had to say, what would be our dream job? It doesn't have to be realistic. You can make up. And it was so fun because I had friends who said things and I never would have imagined they even liked that or were interested. And so I'm like, is that your real dream job? Or are you making this up? What? It started so many cool conversations and we had these personas all night. It was a whole thing. Like people really got into character
I
and we
love
had
that.
to introduce ourselves to everyone. And it was so much fun. And you're making me think you're so right. I think it was so fun because no one asked us that. Like we don't have a chance to to play with that and pretend and say what would we really want to do if we had the chance to try it out.
Because we're all, adults and we have to do the adulting thing and we have to
Yeah.
think about the logic of our decisions, which is no fun.
Yeah.
And it's so much more fun to think about if money was no object and there was no parameter, what would you be when you grew up?
Yeah. So ask that question more people and also have a party and have people come up with these. It was a full thing, and I actually have a guest book when people come over. I have one of those little, it's like Polaroid camera, and so I put pictures in a guest book, and people sign it. So that day, everyone signed the guest book with their fake name too. So it was really fun. It was a full commitment.
Amazing. That is amazing.
Okay, so I'm curious if money was no object for you, what would be your dream job? What would you do?
I mean, I think, well, you know what? I'm gonna do a mashup job. I would be a ballerina fashion designer.
Oh,
That's what 7-year-old me would have said. So we're gonna
yeah.
call her 7-year-old Ilana.
Okay.
I grew up dancing. There was a certain point in my life where we realized, we meaning me and everyone in my life, this is not going to end up being a career for her. But if money was no object and I had the ability to, I would absolutely become a ballerina. And I love I love clothes. I love fashion. I
Yeah.
can't draw at all. But you know what? If it were up to money was no object, I would be designing my own clothes. How about
Right.
you?
In your dream world, you don't need to draw. You can hire
Right.
someone to draw.
Right. That's right.
So are you designing what are they called? What do ballerinas wear? I'm blanking.
Tutus.
Yeah. Would you design tutus or would you design clothes?
I would design all of them. I would design my
Oh,
own
okay.
costumes and then I would design my regular clothes.
Oh, I love this. So you're multifaceted fashion designer. Oh man, I'm trying to think of what I said. I don't remember what I said at the party. But my current, a lot has happened since then. So current dream job would be not to have a job, but I
Get
think,
paid to exist. I
yeah,
like that one.
I think my dream, honestly though, I think my dream like job would be something to do with like writing. I've always liked writing, not necessarily getting paid to write a certain thing, but just like being able to do that freely without worrying about money or anything, just having the time and space to do that a lot of the time. And I think I do a dual job too, like maybe something to do with writing and also creating really cool event experiences.
Ooh.
So the party I mentioned, like I love to have these parties and I'll always come up with different ideas of things that we do, games. And it's so like, I always have fun. My friends say they have fun. So hopefully they're not lying. But I think it would be fun to travel around and host events like that in other cities and bring people together to have fun as adults and just laugh and get to know each other and have a great time. I think that would be a really cool job that I don't think exists.
I feel like there's a space for this. Sorry, we're gonna go right into business planning. But I was like, ooh, I feel like that could happen.
Oh, I'm like, oh, we need to talk more. Yes, please, and please let us know. Is there a market for this? Would anyone show up to this party?
Me, I'll show up.
Oh, yay. Okay, so I need to come to New York City and
That's right.
do my first event.
There you go.
I love that. Okay, so what another question since we're not, we're getting away from the what do you do? What's your favorite thing that you've purchased in, I won't say this week, maybe you haven't bought anything this week or even this month, but like the last few months, what's been your favorite purchase?
Ooh.
Or
Um,
one of your favorites?
I'm trying this new thing with my wardrobe where I dress however I want.
Oh,
And so I've bought a lot of like really fun little pieces for my closet. Oh, probably this denim jacket. There we go. I was trying to describe it and I was like, it's sitting here.
oh, that's
I just
super
really like it.
cute.
It's
I
got
love
like, oh,
it.
missing a sleeve. Yeah, I've decided that I'm going to wear things that bring me joy and make me happy. And that's what we're working on. So those have probably have been that and a couple of other items have been the good recent purchases.
Yeah, and it's color blocked for those. I know you can't. We'll have to get a
I know I'm
picture of
showing
this.
you on Zoom like
We're
everybody can see me.
we're
So
gonna have to
sorry.
get a picture of this jacket so we can post
I'll take
it.
a selfie for
Yeah,
everybody.
you have to take a selfie. It's so cute. It's like color blocked. I love it. And I love that you said you're buying things that bring you joy because I think with social, not think, I know with social media, at least for me, we're constantly influenced, even if we don't want to be, by what other people think we should wear, what we should look like. And so you almost have to force yourself to say, wait, what do I really like? That's not something based off an influencer.
Much like no one should be deciding what your career is,
Exact. That's a good
and
one. Yep.
should not decide what career is going to make you happy. You should also wear clothes that make you happy.
Yeah. See, look at you. You are a true marketer because you brought that full circle. You brought it full circle without even
Trying,
trying.
doing what I can.
You said you hate marketing. I don't know. I think you're pretty good at it.
See, no, I see that more as the storyteller thing where I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
you're right.
bring it on back. Is there, what's the,
You're right. It's because you're an author and you're talented and you know how to do it. So you're an awesome storyteller.
thanks. Thank you.
Oh,
I'm tossing my hair for everyone who
yeah,
can't see me.
she's tossing her hair. I know. I need to start like sharing these videos at some point because I think they're always really fun. Yeah. Y'all missed the hair toss.
It's fine. We can take a video and it's fine later. It's all good.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I have loved this. I appreciate you for chatting not once, but twice, sharing your book writing experience, sharing your expertise in the career development space, reminding people your career is yours to own. And it's okay if it doesn't look like anyone else's. Can you let everyone know if they want to keep up with what you're doing? What's the best place to find you?
The best place for all things career related is LinkedIn. I have been a little off my posting game, but I will try. And if you want to have a career development conversation with me or thoughts about your career, send me a message.
Great. All right. Well, I will link that in the show notes so people know how to contact you. Thanks again for coming. Always a joy to connect with you. Glad we have continued to grow our friendship over the last few years and just really appreciate you for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me for part 2. This was awesome.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Have a good day.